Okay, YouTube, welcome to the channel. Today I have a 2-hour drive ahead of me going to a work conference. Thought it would be a good time to do a short video providing tips on purchasing your first motorcycle. Maybe it's your second or third, but just providing some tips around selecting a bike, how to go about the negotiations, things like that. So for me, I've purchased quite a few bikes in my lifetime. I'm talking about maybe close to 10 different motorcycles. So I have a kind of a rough idea of what kind of things you should be looking out for. So I'll be providing those tips here. That said, I'm going to do the whole thing in kind of in one go because there's no way for me to edit this video. I'm just going to kind of wrap things up and upload it to YouTube, and hopefully that's going to help somebody out. So let's start with selecting a bike. The first thing you want to do before you even consider doing any kind of purchasing or anything like that is to figure out what kind of riding you're going to be doing. For me, I've always rode primarily sport bikes. That's something that I started out with, and that has stuck with me for, to this day. I have gotten into some cruisers, and over time I just kind of figured out that it's just not my thing. I mean, riding is riding. I love riding no matter what it is, but my type of riding has always been around sport bikes. So first thing you're going to do is to kind of figure out if you're going to be doing more of a casual cruising, if you're going to be doing sport bikes, taking things off track from time to time, or you're going to be going kind of off-road and doing kind of the endurance stuff. So figure that out first and foremost. The second step is to sort out the motorcycle that is going to be for your frame. By that I mean it all depends on your height, it depends on your build. All that thing is going to kind of play a part in selecting the appropriate motorcycle. So if you get a chance, go out to the local dealership and sit on a few bikes. Get an idea of how they feel, because they're all different. Some sport bikes, even if you just isolate yourself to sport bikes, the riding position is extremely different, right? Some are a little bit more aggressive. You're sitting kind of in the front of the bike. That'll be kind of more of a Yamaha format. I've owned a BMW that's a little bit more upright, still a very aggressive stance, but it's more upright and you're sitting up a bit higher. You switch things over to the Suzukis. They're also a little bit more in an upright position. So you really want to kind of figure out, what fits your body. Your height is definitely going to play a part. Now, please note that you can lower certain motorcycles. There is some wiggle room. So if you purchase a sport bike, let's say, that's a little bit too tall for you and you're standing on tippy toes, you can absolutely ride it, not a problem. It's just not going to be very comfortable for you, right? So if you're doing casual riding from time to time, not a big issue, okay? But if you're doing kind of stop and go traffic, it's probably going to drive you nuts, right? If you always have to kind of sit on your tippy toes. That's also kind of a safety thing as well. It's always better when you can plant your feet, more or less firmly on the ground, flat-footed. So the typical wiggle room that you're going to get for lowering a bike, if it's too high for you, is going to be approximately 1 inch, maybe 2 inches. When you start getting into kind of a 2-inch drop, there's more things that you have to do to the motorcycle, which translates into more cost. It also may affect the way that the bike handles. So anyway, depending on your frame, depending on your height, it's you'll want to select which bike fits you better and you feel more comfortable with. Once you get that figured out, all that's dialed in, from there on you may begin your shopping, right? You may have an idea of what you want as far as the looks. Obviously there's different brands to choose from, Yamaha, Honda, BMW, Suzuki, KTM is coming up, Aprilia. Some of the snobs look at Ducatis if you have the money, of course, but the goal is to own one of each, right? That should be the primary goal of everybody. I haven't owned a Ducati yet. That's kind of on the roadmap. but so I cannot give you feedback on that. Once you get that kind of sorted out, right? So you figured out what type of bike you want. You figured out what bike fits you most as far as comfort. The next thing that typically guys like to look at is what does it sound like? What are the controls are like? Some of the riding features. Newer bikes have more electronics plugged into them. Older bike, it's raw power. Then you just hope that it has things like a slipper clutch, ABS, those kind of things. So budget is going to dictate most of that, but you definitely want to understand what types of features does the motorcycle have. All other things to consider also obviously is the type of engine it has. There's a big contrast between a Ducati and, let's say, BMW or Aprilia, or looking at Yamahas, right? All new Yamahas, at least on the R1 series, are, for example, flat plane crank. So they have a completely different sound than, let's say, the R6s. Very different sounding motor. The way it behaves is significantly different. If you're looking at a Ducati's, V-twin base motorcycle, very different tone compared to the kind of the more, linear engines, older Yamahas, R6s. You're talking about Hondas and so on. So those kind of inline bikes have that traditional high pitch volume. So, and that's some guys are okay with whatever the sound is. Other ones are very peculiar about the way that the motorcycle sounds. So that's another thing to consider. So once you have your bike picked out, again, CCs also is another important factor to many guys. To me, it really didn't matter a whole lot. I started out on the R6s, so a 600cc bike. I started out with a 04 R6. Later down the road, got a brand new 07 R6. Fast forward, other motorcycles moved up to 2012 R1. That's kind of the more recent one. And then right now I'm riding a 2021 R1, as well as 2023 BMW S1000RR. I also have an 18 Hayabusa, very contrasted between the other, leader bikes. So figure out where you want to be at in terms of CC, and the CCs will dictate not only the power delivery and the cool factor, but it also will dictate how much you're going to be spending on insurance. Make sure you figure that out, because you don't want to surprise yourself later down the road where you say, I found my dream bike, I'm ready to go purchase it, and then you get that it's going to cost you $5,000 per year to insure it, right? Your age will have a factor, and the CCs will also play a big part in that as well. So make sure you do shopping around for your insurance policy. I have stuck over the years with Progressive because they just have a better policy in terms of rates. So again, that's another thing you want to take into consideration. So when I was younger, kind of mid-20s, an R6 was just enough for me. Insurance was affordable. I'm a little bit up later in the years now, so I have no problem with picking up a leader bike, and the insurance is not ridiculous. So those are the other factors that you want to consider before moving forward. Once you have those things kind of sorted out, and I'm sorry I'm not providing more tips on cruisers, but cruisers, it's going to be really more or less the same. There's just more variations when you start getting into cruisers and choppers and other things that I probably would not be the best person to fall back on in terms of tips. The only cruiser that I've ever owned was a 2007 Kawasaki Mean Streak. Great bike, awesome, 1600 cc's, quite powerful. I enjoyed it, but kind of lost interest in it over time, because given the choice, I always fell back on sport bikes. But there is so much variation when you get into kind of the cruisers, because there's different classes, muscle cruisers, casual cruisers, And also the same thing with the CCs, right? There's 650cc cruisers, which would be like dogs. You know, then there's like the 1200, 1600s, and up to 2500, much heavier bikes as well. And there's a billion features on those motorcycles in terms of, you know, cruise control and this, and, you know, bagging, longer trips. Me personally, I don't do that kind of riding, so again, for those kind of tips, perhaps check out another channel. You know, I primarily focus on sport bikes. All right, so let's say that you figured out your brand, you figured out the CCs, you figured out what you want to get in terms of features. The next step, obviously, is to figure out your budget, right? That's going to have a deciding factor on what type of bike that you can afford. And let's say that your range is in the $5,000 range, and you're looking for a decent bike. You know, whether you're picking up a 600cc or 1000cc, you can definitely squeeze in a motorcycle in that price range. Typically for the 1000cc bikes, you'll be looking more in that $6,500, $7,000 range, used, of course, not brand new, used bikes. And the mileage should be, you know, my preference has always been keep it under 10,000 miles, because that just means that the bike has passed through the break-in period, but it hasn't been pushed to, you know, not end of life, but close to when you start getting into that 20K range. So look for a bike that's under 10,000 miles, and yeah, your budget should be right around, you know, that $6,000 or $5,000 range. Those are all affordable. So if you're just starting out, those are decent bikes to look at. I never recommend, by the way, coming back to the CC, is I never recommend going to the 500cc or less motorcycle if you're just starting out, because you are going to get bored of it. You can start learning on a 600cc bike safely, especially on the newer motorcycles, because they have the features, they have different modes that you can kind of dumb down the throttle response and things like that, improve traction controls and so forth. So don't recommend starting out anything lower than 500cc, but again, preferably you'll go to like in a 600cc class. So there's that. So again, if it's your kind of your first bike, you're on a budget, look for a motorcycle in the $5,000 range. You should be able to come up with something decent. Always look at reviews, right? I offer some reviews on my channel about some of the bikes that I purchased, and I always try to do not first impressions. I try to do kind of a you know, get a few miles under my belt, maybe a year in, I'll do a review. That way I can provide good feedback. Look for the similar on YouTube from other YouTubers that don't just do my first ride, right? You can't base your opinion on somebody's first ride or first impressions. I can't stand when dealerships do review of motorcycles and people look at that to say, oh, that's the bike that I want, because all they're really doing is, you know, going over the features of the bike and not necessarily providing the feedback on how they ride, their reliability, things that you may find discouraging about the motorcycle, because dealerships, all they're looking to do is sell you on the product. So they're only going to talk about the good things, where honest YouTubers, myself included, I just provide the raw feedback. Here's what I like and here's what I don't like. So, you know, look for that kind of feedback as well. So moving up to, if you're looking to buy a brand new bike, okay, what should be the budget and so on. And again, there is a little bit of variation. 600cc bikes, you're looking at around that 12K range. That may have gone up over the years, but that's kind of the median that you're looking for. 1000cc bikes go anywhere between 18 to 23, and then on the upper end, if you're looking for kind of the higher end bikes in the 1000cc class, they can go up as high as 36 grand or more. But the average you're looking for a 1000cc bike is going to be right around that 20K range out of the door every time. So that's for brand new bikes. So just like expectations. As far as going out to check bikes, let's start out with the used ones first. What you should be looking out for. Number one thing is for the history of the motorcycle. Is this the first owner that you're buying from? has it gone through multiple owners. You definitely want to stay away from owners that's I bought the bike, I know nothing about it. That's already a red flag, because it could be a whole bunch of things wrong with it, right? So if you're buying from a private party, you want to make sure that the person is familiar with a motorcycle. They can honestly tell you, here's what's good about it, here's what's not so good about it, okay? If you're buying from the dealership, you know, if it's reputable dealerships, you can trust them. They typically do inspections because they don't want to sell a lemon and then that will come back to them. So they usually do the inspections, make sure that it has like decent tires, things like that, right? They had a recent oil change and so on and so forth. So it's a little bit easier purchasing from a dealership. Of course, the price is then going to be bumped up by an extra $2 or $3 grand over what you could get from a private party. So keep that in mind. So anyway, coming back to a private party purchasing, if they have some receipts around kind of service, you want to make sure that the bike has been serviced on a regular basis. Sure, it could be somebody like me that typically works in the bikes themselves, like things like oil changes and so on and so forth. Tires, I always take them in and get them done. But look for receipts. That's just a kind of a nice thing to have. If they don't have it, no big deal. You just want to do kind of a once over, make sure that the chain is not rusty, the tires are not worn. Those are the key things to look out for. Motor, just make sure the oil, you know, when you look through the glass, that it's not black. It has been changed on a regular basis. Of course, you cannot prove any of that stuff, but that's what you got to check. Other things to look forward to is brakes. Make sure they're not completely worn. They're working correctly, both front and rear brakes. All the lights work. If the bike has modifications on it, exhaust, ECU, whatever, just make sure that hopefully there's some records around where that was bought, when it was bought. If it was flashed, what kind of flash is on it. You want to kind of keep track of all those things. Outside of that, any kind of weird noises that you'll hear from a motorcycle when you start up. Some will have a little bit of a ticking noise. Yamahas are notorious for that. That can be ignored. I mean, if you're familiar with the bike, you'll know what to look for. But anything that doesn't sound right, if the bike is smoking, stay away from it. Make sure that you start it up and let it run, that the fans kick on, that they don't overheat. That's an important thing to look out for. So those are the kind of the key things you want to look out for. If it's a brand new bike, to be honest with you, there's really not much you need to look at there. Just make sure that you have your warranty covered and so on. But again, coming back to used bikes, that's what to look out for. Make sure you check to see if it has all the original plastic on it, right? If you see any kind of aftermarket plastics, you know, panels don't line up correctly, things like that, chances are the motorcycle was dropped. Yes, it could have been something that just kind of got tipped over in the driveway. But if it has gone down at speed, at any speed, whether it's 10 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour, or faster, chances are that there may be some issues with the title. Okay, providing my feedback, I've purchased my Suzuki Hayabusa. It was dropped, and what happened is that they tipped it on both ends. They picked it up on one side. It was dropped on one side. They picked it up and went over to the other end. So both of the panels on the front were scratched. It literally had only 200 miles on it, right? This is 2018. I bought it last year. And it had 200 miles on it, which means that they really did not even drive it. The insurance completely wrote it off. So that's how insurance works. If they have one scratch on any body panel, they say that that's a liability, and they'll end up writing it out. So keep that in mind, that you could technically buy a decent bike like I did. I got a great deal for it, but very low miles for something as stupid as just simple scratches from being tipped over. But if you don't know the history, right, if you don't know what happened and it has new panels on it or it has stickers on it, all those are red flags that the bike was probably dropped. It was rebuilt. If there was a rebuilt title, of course, that's a huge red flag. But that's stuff you want to look out for. If there is any kind of repair work that was done, you really want to ask all the right questions, make sure that there was nothing major. I've laid down my 2012 R1. It was wet outside. Started kind of riding it a little bit aggressively and on ramp. I let the rear tire slip out underneath me. So I'm low-sided. Only thing that was scratched up is the left fairing, the bar ends, and the rear spool that I had. So they did their job. Very minor scratching. Oh yeah, I mentioned the levers as well. So I replaced those. The insurance company gave me a big check on top of it, but there was absolutely no damage on the motorcycle outside of them. When they did their estimate, they literally said that we're going to be writing the bike off, right? Keeping the green title, but they're going to write it off because they didn't want to take the liability of sending this back to me with something going wrong, a year later with the frame or with the wheels. So their estimate was huge. It was like $10,000 to do a minor repair of 3 fairings, really, and bar ends and levers. So, it is possible that it was something minor, got fixed, no big deal, and then you're getting yourself a decent deal when you're purchasing a motorcycle. But you always want to be cautious. Outside of that, again, if the bike looks good, hopefully the owner will allow you to ride the motorcycle. If you have never ridden before, I don't recommend you by yourself going out and riding the bike. Okay, if you have zero experience, don't go test riding a motorcycle. Have a friend that knows how to ride, check it out for you. Okay, so those are the other tips to look out for. Outside of that, and by the way, that applies if it's you're new to riding. Never try to ride it off the lot or anything like that on your own, especially if you have very little experience. Have somebody that's experienced, get it back to your home where there you can kind of figure out how to start riding, So if you're a new rider, again, be safe, be smart, have somebody help you out. Moving to negotiations, it's all bargaining power. If you're purchasing a motorcycle, you can always walk away from the deal. So make sure you have a rough idea of what bikes are going for. Go on Cycle Trader and compare, right? See what the prices are coming in from the dealers. That's one. 2, look for private parties on Facebook Marketplace and things like that to get an average price of what this particular motorcycle that you're looking at, what is that median price range. So check it out. Don't look at the peaks, don't look at the very low prices, and don't look at the very high prices. It's just going to kind of skew reality. So look for the average and base your opinions of what the bike should be going for, and then go from there. When it's a private party, you have the ability to kind of negotiate down quite a bit. So use that to your advantage. Have an idea of what you want to pay. Get your finances worked out ahead of time so you don't get into surprises and waste your own time where now I negotiated something, now I gotta go and get a loan from the bank. Make sure that you are pre-approved before you even start the journey, because you're going to be wasting your time as well as the seller's time. So get that worked out. That way you can come in and say, yep, I already have this thing pretty much set up. I have the finances. Now it's a matter of bargaining down the price. And as soon as that's you have an agreed deal, you can seal that off and move on. Make sure your insurance is ready to go as well. When it comes down to dealerships, this is where if you're buying a brand new bike or buying a used bike from the dealership, note that all that stuff that you hear around, like, be ready to walk away from the deal if they don't give you like a huge discount. Let me tell you about dealerships. They're not in the business to discount things further. Used bikes are typically sold $2,000 over value. That's what I have seen. They want to get those off the floor. Okay, those are the trade-ins that they have received for brand new motorcycles that somebody purchased. So they're not there to make a big buck. All they're trying to do is get their money back. What I've seen typically is $2,000, $2,500, maybe $3,000 is what they're trying to squeeze out of the used bike in terms of money. Do you have some negotiation on a used bike? Absolutely. They'll definitely negotiate more with you on a used motorcycle than on a brand new one. On a brand new one, here's the deal. If it's a brand new bike, right now it's 2023, 2024 models are coming out, you won't have much negotiation room. The only thing that you might get discounted on is the freight and the setup fees. That's something that dealerships have flexibility on in terms of price. With motorcycles today flying off the shelves, and it's the same thing with cars also, they're flying off the lots quite quickly. You know, sometimes you even have to reserve the motorcycle. They don't have a problem of holding down the price, okay? So don't expect to get large discounts on a brand new motorcycle. They may throw in some things from their local store, some apparel, things like that. They may reduce the freight cost or get rid of them. Those are the best dealerships that I work with. They just roll the freight in. That's what they can do. Don't expect to be bargaining $1,000 off of a brand new motorcycle. I just don't think you're going to get it. I've never gotten that kind of deal. If you have somebody at the organization, maybe you can get that kind of a discount, but I just have not seen that. So keep that in mind. Now, if the bike is 1 year old, this is where you may have some flexibility to the reduced price. Okay, so for example, let's say that right now it's 2023, 2024, bikes are still going to come out onto the lot. The dealerships do want to move the old inventory out, right? So 2023 bikes, you'll have a little bit more flexibility to come in and negotiate the price down a bit. So keep that in mind also. So if they still have the old models on the lot when the new models arrive, you know, eyeball those. A brand new bike is a brand new bike. Do you need the latest and the greatest? Probably not, unless you have your eyes set on a particular model or model year, right? So those are the things that you can expect from the dealership when purchasing new motorcycles. What else can I cover for you guys? I think we covered some of the negotiation tactics. Talked about what you can discount. I'm trying to think anything else. Purchasing a new motorcycle, two things to look out for: warranty, right, as well as financing. So be careful on that one. If you want to have a peace of mind, if you're buying an expensive motorcycle, warranty may be a good thing for peace of mind. Just purchase and have. From my experience, I don't think it's worth it. Okay, the chances of something happening 3 years down the road are extremely slim. If anything is going to happen, it's going to happen that first year of riding. Okay, as long as you go through the proper break-in procedure, right? As long as you do normal riding, you're not abusing the bike. If anything is going to happen, it's going to happen within that first year, and that's when you still have the manufacturing warranty. Okay, make sure that you keep your receipts for doing maintenance and things like that. That first year, make sure, if you can, take it to the dealerships, get the oil changes done. I mean, you're only going to need to do like one oil change, you know, after whatever, the 200 or 300 miles, you're going to do that first service. After that, you know, you shouldn't have to need anything within that first year. So ride the bike easy at first. Once you get past the break-in procedure, ride the hell out of it like it's supposed to be written. So if something is going to happen, it's going to happen within that 1 year. After that, you know, praying for warranty, to be honest with you, I think that time has always expired, and I've never really needed it. And that was on 4 or 5 different brand new motorcycles I've got. So keep that in mind. The other one is financing. If you're financing through the dealership, I typically choose not to do that. I did it on my first bike, and that's where they bump up the points, so they increase the rates. That's how they get you. It's definitely convenient to just do everything in one place, but I highly recommend shopping around. Go to your local bank, preferably a credit union. Credit unions will give you better rates, so check that out first. So don't fall into the trap of getting financing at the dealerships. You'll never get a better deal. I've never seen that. So keep that in mind. So unless you had a different experience, if you have, please put us into the comments and, you know, correct me. But that's just what I have experienced. So with that, that covers those angles. When it comes down to private parties, there is no warranty. Just, again, do your best to make sure that you're not getting yourself a lemon, and that will keep you safe. And as far as financing goes, just again, same rules apply. Go check out your local banks. If you have cash, even better. Some guys, they're very strong opinionated that you should buy your motorcycle outright. You should never do financing. By all means, if you can afford it, buy it cash. I bought my recent R1, the 04 R1. I bought that one outright. Okay, I didn't want to have the bank on there. I wanted to take it off insurance during the wintertime to save money. That's one thing that you could be doing, right? So if you own it, you can now save money when you drop it off when the season is over of riding. I live up north, so during the winters I don't want to be paying insurance for no particular reason. So keep that in mind. So those are the things to look out for. So please do, if you can afford it, purchase it outright. You got it. You don't have to worry about if something happens to the bike and you don't have cap insurance, let's say, you're pulling money out of pocket to pay the bank. So anyway, hopefully this was not a short video. I thought it was going to be a lot shorter, but there are just so many different things to look out for, tips, tricks, things that I have run into in the past. So look at that, we ran into a 30-minute video. I'll be uploading this now, and please do add some comments, right? If you have different experience with your previous purchases, some suggestions, please post them in the comments, share that with the rest of the community. That always helps everybody, right? I think there's some sort of weird taboo around sharing information around your sales tactics. I don't know why. If you're a dealership, of course, you don't want to give away your trade secrets, but in the community, I think it's fair to just kind of offer tips and tricks. So I'm offering mine. Anyway, thanks again for watching this video. If this is your first time on the channel, please do subscribe. I do these kinds of videos on a regular basis. So hopefully you'll check out some more of what I have on the channel. And if you're a returning user, thank you so much for being a subscriber. That helps me out a ton. And everybody else, catch you later. Cheers. Bye.